Welcome back to the Wrong Kind of Music podcast. I'm joined today again by Phil, and we've got a newcomer to the podcast, Mark.
How's it going?
If you go to metal gigs in Belfast, you'll have seen Mark about. Like ourselves, goes to all the gigs.
A lot of them.
Pretty much all the gigs. So we're here today to talk about, we're going to review Heat 1 and Heat 2 of Metal to the Masses, and then we're going to do a quick preview of Heat 3, 4 and 5. See, I can count. So let's get into it. Roll the intro. Right, so we'll not waste any time. We'll get stuck straight into this. First Heat of Metal to the Masses 2022 Belfast. We had Archives, Foreign Wolf, Blurred Reality, and Like a Hawk. I thought it was a cracking night. Had a really, really good night overall. Loved it. Good to be out. Back at gigs. Good to be singing pints. Maybe a few more than I should have
As
had.
usual.
But first band on the night, Archives, metalcore band from Belfast, fairly new, ex-members of Survivalist and also All the King's Ashes. I thought I wasn't going to remember that, but it did. Phil, what did you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, relative newcomers to the to the scene, really. You know, brand new album out there, sort of the latter half of last year, and I was expecting big things. If I was going to be honest with you, and I think they delivered for the most part. I expected it to be quite a wee bit heavier, actually.
I get you.
Just in you know the sound out of the album is huge. It's really aggressive, really in your face, and I just wasn't picking that quite up. Though that's absolutely, you know, it was a cracking performance. The energy on stage, the guys were professional, and they delivered the songs brilliant. You know, and energy flowing off the stage, on the ground, in the crowd, moshing away and doing everything. I thought it was sensational. I thought it was great. Loved it. Yeah, I really liked it.
Mark, Archives, what do you reckon?
Archives, I only got there for the last song. I can't remember why, but when I first walked in, I was just hit by the sheer amount of people there. And then I walked up to get a photo, took the lens cap off, and the sweat in the air just steamed the lens. And the crowd were going wild. The band were pretty good, you know, for that last song that I did see.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like them.
Yeah.
I think that last song was the best, wasn't it? It was just
Definitely, I think they finished strong. I thought personally, like, I had it in my head of them coming out and just being fucking explosive from the start. And they didn't really build their set like that. Their first song, I'm not sure what you called it, but it's the one, they talked about it before on one of the other podcasts. I think it's the one about immigrants and stuff. And I didn't think it was the best song for them to start with. But that's pretty much my only nitpick of their set. I thought everyone on stage just fucking went for it. Frontman just slammed at him. Just completely slammed it. Loads and loads of energy. You can tell he was burnt out by the end, and he should be burnt out by the end of a metalcore set. It should be that high energy in your face.
absolutely
Just intense.
Just
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is it. They gave it all. They left it all on stage, you know, and that's you know, they're going, we're serious about this. So it's good to see. Like,
You touched on the amount of people in the place.
Yeah.
Voodoo sold out that night.
Yeah.
Like, I think, as far as I'm aware anyway, that's the first I know of a Metal to the Masses Heat selling out. People had to be turned away. It was that fucking busy. Brilliant. Like,
I think by the time I got there, I was told there was like 30 tickets or less on the door at that point at the end of their set, so I must have sold out within like the next couple of bands. But see, when they were over, when they finished, I went to get a drink, and in pairs, the queue to the bar went all the way to the stairs. So I had to go down the stairs to get a drink, you know.
I noticed that myself, because any normal night when you're in Voodoo, you just go to the bar, and there's maybe 2 or 3 people there, a couple of people there.
And then like
everyone's just there's a sort of gentleman's agreement in how we queue in Voodoo. Whereas that night, there was this nice, clean, formal queue right down the middle, and I'm like,
these people haven't been here before.
But we're kind of taking the piss. But you know, it's good to see new people coming out and catching bands.
Absolutely, there's a lot of new faces this year.
Yeah,
a lot of new faces this year.
So yeah, Archives, I thought they were great. I would happily go see them. And as I say, I mentioned this in the last one, I'm a convert because Second bar on the bill, Foreign Wolf. I didn't catch all of Foreign Wolf the last time we went and seen them, which was up in the Speakeasy.
Yeah, that was right.
I have listened to.
Was it the night they filled in for Oracle?
That was it exactly. Yep. I've listened to both their EPs quite a few times, and I think I've just got to the point where I've just accepted that Foreign Wolf isn't what I'm into. Their style, they all play well, and they're very talented musicians. There's no doubt about that. Pretty decent songwriting, but it's just not my thing. And it didn't on that night. Their set just didn't hold my attention. There's bits and pieces where there's some more harsh vocals, a little bit of heavier guitar, and in those instances I'm like, right, fucking, if there was more of this, it'd be up my alley. When it chugged, there was heft, but then when it went like what I would call strummy, it just kind of lost me, and no, it just wasn't my cup of tea. I will always try and pick out a positive where I can. I really like watching their bass player on stage.
That's what I was gonna say.
I thought their bass player brought a lot of charisma to the stage and a lot of sort of just dude looked like he was really enjoying himself. So as I say, when I'm watching a band that I'm not overly fussed on, I try and hone in on that wee bit that I like, and their bass player was what I did like. So not for me, but you know, we all have our own tastes and opinions, don't we?
Yeah.
Phil, what did you think?
I quite like them. I've said it before in the podcast. I do like Foreign Wolf. Bassist is a brand new bassist. I don't know where they got him from. So in the space of what 5 or 6 weeks since we've seen them before, they managed to get a bassist. You know, it takes bands years to get a bassist. They're just not in supply.
True.
And I think just across the board, actually, a lot of really good bassists this year, just so far. But yeah, you know, great to watch. You know, a good performer on stage as well.
Yeah.
And I do like Foreign Wolf, and you know, the drumming's pretty neat. You know, there's a couple of wee flams in there, and I'm going to use like terminology that I know nothing about. But you know, there's a couple of wee bits in that that's just not your standard bog standard drumming, and it's you kind of don't pick up on it if you're not looking. You know, which I quite like. And I think the thing with the vocals is that the vocals are, you know, the cleans are good. I prefer the harsh. Speaking to the guitarist in the way, you know, after the gig, and he was like, yeah, you're right, we don't know really what we want to be. And I went, man, you know, you're good at the heavy stuff. Like, it would be cool to see if you could do heavy stuff. Like, not that you could. It would, you know, I think you're good at the heavy stuff. You can obviously do it. It would be class to see you do it. And, you know, I don't know. I think their next sort of release is going to be quite interesting if it goes down that path.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
Mark, did you enjoy them?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I agree with what both yous were saying, because like I was there taking photos, and I was just naturally drawn to the bass player like almost every second, because he was just loving life, and he was, you know, they're not really the kind of band I'd normally go to my way to listen to, but after that set, I did listen to them, you know, a wee bit afterwards. Like I really, really enjoyed it, I have to say.
Cool. Third band on the bill were Blurred Reality. I had listened to Blurred Reality. I'd listened to them more than I should have, in the sense that, that's going to sound really stupid, but I put their EP on and I thought it was just kind of okay, but I found myself listening to it quite a few times, so I was fairly familiar with their EP before going to the gig. Before they went on stage, when they went on stage, but before they started playing, I was kind of like just watching what was going on, and one of the guys has like a real sort of, I don't know how you would describe that haircut.
Is it an eccentric or bouffant?
Bouffant is definitely the word, yeah. And he had like a very nice shirt.
The waistcoat to match.
And a waistcoat, and he was kind of like, I think he was like high-fiving people at the front of the stage, and this was before they'd even started playing. Other guy on the other side of the stage just looked entirely different, like just someone who was from a metal band. And I don't know, we can't help it. Sometimes we just judge a book by its cover. And I was sitting looking at it going, I don't like them already. I don't like them already. And then they started playing, and they were fucking great. I thought they were really, really good. The music, their songs sound way better on stage than they do on record. I found that their music found it a wee bit at odds with itself. It sounded like a heavy metal song or a thrash song with like grungy vocals over the top. And when I started listening to that at home, it was like it's at odds with itself. But on stage it worked. I don't know if he changed his vocal style or whatever it was, but it just worked on stage. Again, that sort of the attitude he brought to the stage, I thought was like a bit cocksure, but that also kind of worked. And then we've talked on this podcast, I don't know how many times, about how a band should look like a unit. Everyone should like have a similar look or something. I think those three guys looked so different that it kind of worked as well.
Off beforehand,
it just kind of like it brought three very, very different personalities to the stage, and I kind of liked that as well. Everything they'd done, I just really, really enjoyed, and I thought that was weird considering I was standing 30 seconds before they started playing, thinking I don't like them at all. You know, they won me round very quickly. There was plenty of movement on stage. The performance felt sincere and genuine and believable. They looked like they were enjoying themselves. I would definitely go out of my way to see Blurred Reality again. Agree or disagree with any of that, Mark?
Fucking agree. Yeah. Absolutely loved them. In terms of the different styles you were talking about, it was kind of like a little bit of Iron Maiden, a little bit of Slayer. I think they had that song End of Attrition that was just that like a wee Slayer riff. The vocals to me were kind of like, so you know the band Warning, the Doom band?
Do not know them, but anyway.
Listen to them, they're fucking amazing. But their vocalist, I think Patrick Walker is his name, has this just, I can't even describe it, just go listen to it. But to me it's like taking that and that doomy kind of, like the resonance of his voice and the quality, but applying it to the likes of power metal style vocals. It was something like that, and then the energy that they had. Like, I absolutely loved them. Like, did they, I can't remember, but probably the alcohol, you know, but did they come first or second that night?
We'll like to talk about the results after.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Distracting.
Phil, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think I've got to do some eating of words here, to be honest. Whenever I was last sitting in this seat, I think I said I didn't expect too much from them, and fuck was I wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, for everything that both of you have already said there, you know, a great, you know, assured performance. They delivered on the night. And again, I think it's totally fine to be cocksure or cocky on stage, you know, but that's fine if you've got a big dick. You know,
I was gonna say, if you deliver the goods, which they did.
So, like, and really, the three of them on stage, just, it was fun. It wasn't effort. There was no labour in it at all. Because sometimes that massive showmanship can come across false, and absolutely not. It was 100% genuine. The songs were good. The playing was good, and the fucking crowd loved them. You know, it's an absolute astoundir for me. Like, I mean, that's you said it, and you haven't said it, and I'm going to remind you that you did. That's why we go to these things.
You just took it from me, like.
Yeah, sorry. You know.
No, you're 100% right. Every heat or so there'll be a band on, and I'm just sitting thinking, whether I expected them to be good or not, if they surpass my expectations, that's why I go to these Metal and Masses show. It's just sitting there going, fuck, these guys are pretty damn good. Yeah. I would never have, like, if they were just on a bill with a few other bands I was never familiar with, wouldn't have left the house, like, wouldn't have got off my ass.
Fair point, actually.
There's Xbox games to be played, but you know, we went out because it's Metal to the Masses. We caught a band. That's a new band under the roster of bands we like.
People you'll go see.
Absolutely. You know?
The thing is, though, they're from Armagh out there. I can't see them doing too many Belfast gigs. Well, who knows, actually, because they're,
if you get invited,
they'll play, yeah.
They'll play, like.
If you build it, they will.
Well, I mean, considering we've got, I think people are getting a wee bit more willing to travel. I mean, you've got guys from Worn Out coming up to Belfast to play.
True.
What was it, a 35-minute set?
Yeah.
On the second heat, we've got two bands that travelled quite a distance to come up and play. So Armagh's not that far, you know. Make a weekend out of it. I'll take you to the Titanic.
I think they did. They actually, you know, the crowd that were really like loving them. I think they took some of them up with them. You know, see the boys like playing.
Last on the night was Like a Hawk, and it's a straight up confession. I think things were getting a wee bit hazy at that stage for me.
Yeah.
I had quite a few drinks before I went out, and quite a few drinks while I was out. I'm blaming the big crowd because it was so busy. I kept like nipping to the bar during sets rather than between sets because the queue was smaller. Like a Hawk, I mean, I'll be brief. I thought they were a highly polished pub rock band, and I don't even mean that in a negative way. It's just what it reminded me of. To me, it was pub rock, but it was played well and it was performed well. And beyond that, I haven't much to say, to be honest. Mark?
I know what you mean, and I'm thinking like the band themselves might even take that as a compliment. I hope anyway. But you know, in terms of that very specific style, and it's just, and I mean, that age as well, and that kind of music is very like 70s, early 80s inspired hard rock kind of stuff. I remember loving their bass player as well. Like he was loving life. His like lines were really good, and he was just good for taking photos and stuff. So like I had only heard a couple of songs beforehand, and wasn't expecting much, I'll be honest, but I enjoyed the set. Like I really did, a lot more than I expected to. But yeah.
Cool. Phil?
Actually, again, quite surprised by just how good they were. The vocals were excellent. The vocals, that guy can sing. Like he can belt out. There was one massive note he hit, and I just kind of went, "Are you serious?"
Yeah.
Like it was impressive. And again, I think you're right when you said they're that hard rock, really, really highly polished, but there was elements in there where they were just, throwing a wee bit of funk in. I really enjoyed it. Like, I mean, a wee bit of funk mixed with that hard rock just kind of helped me just go at the end of the night. That was kind of, where you normally start to maybe flag a wee bit. You're going, actually, a wee bit, yeah, I'm all right with this. I enjoyed it. I kind of think that actually all four bands made a really bloody hard decision. Like it was a very tight heat, absolutely.
And the two bands that went through were Archives and Blurred Reality. What do you reckon? Was that the right call?
That was my vote.
Yeah. That's what you went for. Phil?
Yeah, I think I seen it slightly differently. I had sort of Blurred Reality and Farm Wolf mixed in there. But yeah, I can totally see why like the crowd voted as they did, and the judges voted as they did. I thought it was a very tight heat. Very tight heat.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Blurred Reality and Archives were definitely the right two bands to go through. Glad they did, and looking forward to seeing them both in the semi-finals. Definitely.
Yeah.
Should be good crack. So moving on to Heat 2. Heat 2 was just a Friday night there on Voodoo. We had four bands again. There was meant to be five. Minor inconvenience due to an injury, I believe, have had to be moved to another heat. Heat 4, am I right in saying?
Heat 4, yes.
I think it is Heat 4,
right?
Yep. So the four bands we were left with was Civet Kant, Gravity Well, Trauma Hound, and 12 Gauge Outrage. And we'll start at the start again and go through them. Civet Kant, anyone want to take this first?
I'll take that, yeah. Again, it was one of these ones, again, I tried to have a wee bit of a listen to their 2019 album, and I just really couldn't find myself getting into it, but like when they came on stage, I thought, yeah, I totally get this, it works, it's fine. Again, we're going to go back to this quality of bass. I thought the bassist was amazing, just an absolute joy to watch. I think bassist, drummer, in fact, all three guys, fantastic to watch, sounded great as well, a lot of sound for three guys. Yeah, I thought that was good. The one thing that just kind of did, niggle me a wee bit was I thought the vocals, the cleans were a wee bit off. And I didn't enjoy those quite so much. Harsh vocals were great, but actually they were really like, I think there's a reason why these guys are, have been about a long time, and we're supporting big acts in the underworld, Camden and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely. Very much enjoyed it.
Mark?
Isn't it Acid Rain that they're supporting? Yeah, it's pretty sweet. No, I enjoyed them. I definitely enjoyed them. I think for some there might be an acquired taste because it's that, technical, progressive, the time changes and things. But no, I definitely enjoyed them. But I put them on in the Warzone a couple of years ago, and they were a 4-piece then, and in my opinion, they were a 4-piece that sounded like a 5-piece, like they had the heft of a 5-piece, and like while I did enjoy their set there, I think they are still lacking that extra guitar player to bring everything together and really, you know, shape it out. But in saying that, still really good, you know.
Yeah. The aspects of them that I liked, you mentioned the bass player. I thought the bass player was superb, great to watch, big smiles the whole time.
Yeah.
Plenty of movement around stage.
Also, like it's not an easy bass line. This guy playing.
No, definitely not. The drummer, I fucking loved watching the drummer. Right, there was bits where you could just see him shouting and swearing through his teeth. He was so fucking into it.
Yeah.
Like, really into it. There's bits where he was standing up and shouting at the crowd,
yeah.
shouting at other guys in the band.
That is amazing.
Just drumming like absolute fuck. I thought he was like man of the night. Like, personally, I thought he was absolutely superb. However, musically, I struggled with Svetkant. I actually thought it was exhausting trying to process what was being played. The sort of the intricacies of the rhythms and the melodies just kind of it was just a bit much for me. It's not entirely my thing. It's a bit discordant. It felt to me like some of it was being played off intentionally, like almost like duff notes were being played, but I don't think they were duff notes. It's just how that music sounds, and
it's
no.
that kind of realm that people say, you know, it's like music for musicians as opposed to the everyday
I get
person,
that,
you know,
I get
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think when you've got what is it, 13 strings between two people.
Exactly.
It's shit's
Yeah.
going down, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
I mean, don't take what I have. I mean, check this band out if you're into that sort of thing. But I listen to bands that mostly play open chords and, you know, not much else. Big stupid slammy riffs. So obviously this was a bit outside my comfort zone. But as I say, I enjoyed aspects of it. Loved watching the drummer. Loved watching the bass player. But overall, not my cup of tea. The next band though, Gravity Well. My first time seeing them. Had you seen them before?
Yeah, a good few times.
Yeah, my first
and
time
yours-
as well, yeah.
Your first time as well. Some of the things you were saying earlier about you whenever you're walking around taking photos, I was trying to get like photos at the start of each band set,
Yeah.
so I was getting a few shots of Gravity Well, and I found myself not really sort of focusing on the music as much as it was on what I was doing. So eventually I put the camera down and kind of took a step back and started watching them and listening to them. And initially it was that sort of that slow, doomy stuff, and I just found it initially uninteresting. But then there was maybe a wee lick or a wee hook that kind of got me, that sounds alright. And as the set went on, it just seemed to get better and better and better, and I kind of fell into a groove of it, you know. And I think it's the kind of band you can't sort of let your mind drift. You need to pay attention and just let yourself fall into the music, as corny as that might sound. As it went on, the more it went on, the more I liked it, and I actually thought they played a brilliant set. I thought their set was well crafted. It felt like it was intentionally played. I think they only had 4 tracks. And it felt like every track was meant to be a step up from the one before. And by the last track, I was just like, this is fucking superb. Absolutely superb. And I loved it. That sense, the sense of escalation through their set, I thought was great. I liked the vocals. I thought the vocals were really, really nice because it was a very, very sort of, I would say like a relaxed vocal, if you know what I mean, against like doomy riffs.
Yeah.
And I thought that contrast worked brilliantly. I can't remember the name of the girl who sings for them. Do you guys remember?
Can't remember now.
She was doing like some sort of effects and electronics and stuff. And there was wee bits of that. It was just like nice big sweeps and stuff that really helped build the music up to like the next big riff. Thought that was brilliant as well. The only nitpick for me would be everyone in the band just kind of seemed to stand there, and I know it's doomed. I mean, I'm not expecting people to stage dive or, you know, run around in circles on stage, but I'd just like to see a wee bit more, just a bit more movement and a bit more, you know, that you're feeling the music and you're enjoying the music. Because I think when you get that from a band, it rubs off in the crowd and the crowd enjoy it more. But overall, Gravity Well, superb, love them. Definitely go see them again, 100%. Phil, what do you reckon? Now that I've finished rambling.
That's why we're here, isn't it? No, I think everything that you've said there is something that I'll echo. New singer, this is a new singer in this band, so it is something, you know, I think it is hard to do and replace your singer, but 100% success there. Really, really controlled, like not surprisingly, but just a very controlled vocal, like never let it get too much. And you know, I thought it was very impressive vocal performance. I agree with you with you know, the movement of people on stage, you know, is again, it is this Doom thing weren't the most exciting band to watch possibly live. Love the electronic sort of elements that were in there as well. Kind of in a roundabout way, I don't feel that, you know, that sort of that box on stage, center stage, kind of I was like, kind of felt a bit out of place, and
I get you.
And it felt like a bit of a crutch almost. You know, I would like to have seen, like, I think whenever you're, you know, a bit of like emotive performance in the singing, but again, that's just me. I know they've got to have this element in it, but I just don't know how you deliver it otherwise.
I get what you mean. If you could get another person into the band to do that, I don't know if there's enough of that in the songs to justify another member.
Yeah.
But if you were able to detach that from the singer and let the singer sort of perform a bit more,
you know,
and own the stage, I think that could bring them up to, like, not that they weren't at a high level.
No, they were so good. I think again, this is what we've got. We've like, I have seen them, I think 2 or 3 times at least before, and like every time they've been really, really good. And it's, I do think they are like a fantastic band.
Yep. Sorry, Mark. I'm almost like forgotten about it.
No, it's fine. I'm glad I finally got to see them. Because until that point, I thought they were just like stickers on lampposts that you see everywhere, you know. But I've been wanting to see them for a long time, and I'm glad I did. But like, going into it was one of those bands I didn't want to listen to them beforehand. I wanted to see the set and, you know, be taken away by it, like you were saying. So going in, someone had said that they were kind of like Sabbath worship. I was like, I'm all for it, all day, any day. But then I saw the guitarist t-shirt and it was sleep. And I was like, is it more like sleep worship? And it was a nice mix of the two, I felt. And it was like, because you were saying about the sense of progression, you know, and I felt it, but even within the songs, it has that kind of doomy, like, slow riff, played again and again, but each time it's building a bit, and then it just goes. And I really liked them, and it was like there were moments where I was going to start headbanging, and then maybe the song ended, or maybe that's my timing that was bad, but there were moments where it went, and I just wish it had went a bit more, you know, that kind of thing. But overall, I did really enjoy them, really like them.
Superb. Next up, you know what? Before we go here, there was a tiny bit of drama on the night, and I don't normally like talking about this, so I'll just say one thing: if you can't come down to these events or participate in these events without being respectful to the rest of the bands and the promoters and the crowds, don't bother turning up. And I know it's not my gig to say that, but we're all involved in the scene and we just don't want to see any shit happening. So be sound, don't be a dick. But with that being said, we'll move on. Next band that played that night were Trauma Hound. Mark, what did you think of Trauma Hound? They were an interesting band, to say the least.
I was confused more than anything.
I don't think you were on your own.
Yeah. To me, it was almost like the drummer was doing, to start with, I absolutely love when there's a drummer that's also the vocalist. Because I can't even get my head around, you know, doing drums itself, singing, but together it's like that was good. But to me it was like he was playing one thing, the two, you know, string guys were playing different things, and then there was a guy in the corner with a laptop that kind of confused me.
Right in the corner.
Yeah, like, and face, behind the wall, yeah. So I didn't really know what was going on with that one, to be honest.
Yeah, just trying to explain the whole thing. I mean, I think the pitch themselves is industrial. I wouldn't have considered it industrial, but I'm not entirely sure what I would have considered it to be. It was, as you say, drummers doing vocals, but it was more just like ranting and shouting about something or other.
It kind of reminded me of like, you know, like London punk or like a bit of D-beat kind of.
There was
oi shouty element to it.
Yeah. Trying to think of the band that I'm trying to compare them to right now, but it's just not coming to me. But they had that, and then they had bass player, guitarist, and then, as you say, the guy doing some sort of electronic elements.
Something.
But he was like literally down his hunkers behind one of the speakers, and it almost looked like they didn't want him to be part of the band, even though he was.
Like on the
part
stage
of
with
the
them,
band.
but semi to the side almost. Or maybe that was just where he had somewhere to park his laptop.
The whole set, to me, it didn't fit. Like that being at a metal night or a rock night or something, that is the wrong band at the wrong show. It really gave me ketamine in a forest at 3 a.m. vibes. You know, this was not having a beer and voodoo on a Friday night music. It just definitely wasn't.
Maybe beer in or Buckfast in the war
I
zone.
was going to say,
you know,
2 balls of Buckfast deep in the war zone, and I reckon there's a crowd that would have went nuts for that. I think there's an audience for that music, and I don't think they go to metal in the masses. And I think it was fucking odd seeing a band like that there. Also, I just think the whole setup of the band doesn't work. Like it's so eccentric and off the wall and crazy that to me it needs an eccentric, off the wall, crazy frontman.
Whereas their frontman's in
Not
behind.
the drummer doing vocals. And if you're going to have an electronic element and that's part of the band, have it on stage, have it set up, you know.
Like personally, I'm all for like people trying to take, you know, opposing genres and maybe mixing them together in a way that works. But there just seemed to be some sort of lack of cohesion somewhere.
Definitely.
You know, like it was like one person was doing something while this guy was doing something completely different, and that person was doing something completely different.
Yeah.
And I think even when they ended the set, it seemed like only one person knew that they'd actually finished. You know, like I don't want to be too much of a dick about it, but I was just confused. You know.
Yeah. I think that's as much as I can really say about Trauma, to be honest. Phil, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, well, it didn't go well, did it?
No.
It just didn't. It didn't go well at all. I mean, I think the one redeeming feature is that the bassist was game. You know, starting the show, the one guy that did something that was actually worth it. You know, the rest of it just a fucking shit show, like a shit show. Yeah. I honestly, you know, end of the first song, didn't even know what the next fucking song was. It was awful. This guy in the corner, we've mentioned him before. You know, fuck, he might as well have been playing Call of Duty in the corner for all I really give a shit about.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was awful. I did not enjoy it in any way, shape, or form, and everybody that I spoke to on that night was like, "What the fuck?" Do you know what I mean?
I heard a few choice phrases like.
Look, it wasn't good. That said, market for it somewhere along the lines, yeah, but it ain't my market. I ain't buying it.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue there's a market for almost anything,
yeah.
so I don't know if that's anything to be said for it.
One thing to add though,
Yeah.
I think the bassist was another Smiler.
You
You know, like I just,
yeah, he loved it. Like
yeah.
Having authority, he's a drummer in a band, so like you know, he can obviously hold it, you know, a good rhythm, which
True.
I think you know he's holding the rhythm of the band.
It has so far been the competition of great smiley bass players.
Yeah. You can never go wrong there.
Last up on the night was a band that I don't think I gave a great review to last time I seen them, and it was 12 Gauge Outrage. Phil, enjoy them?
Very much so. I think we were sort of underwhelmed the last time they came to Belfast. You know, but actually, this was for me, the most complete performance of the night. You know, good songs, good performance. You know, the crowd were loving it. You know, the set was well put together, well constructed. I loved it. I thought they were very, very good. At what they're doing, and a good improvement on when we last seen them. So yeah, very much thought they were
Yeah.
they were good again.
Sweet.
Three people up front enjoying life, and in fact, everybody was enjoying life. So whatever
Mark?
they are, I am.
Did you dig it, the 12 gauge outrage?
I agree completely what you're saying about the most cohesive kind of band of the night. It was the most, they had everything together. Their energy was great and that, but the music itself is good. But to me, it reminds me of like that old school thrash, like a bit of Metallica or whatever, but slightly diluted or something like that. But I did enjoy the set that night, and it was an improvement on the last time they played, which was like early 2020 or yeah.
That
Right
was
about that?
Yeah.
See when they came on stage and just started playing, I had this overwhelming feeling of, holy shit, some honest, straight up, in your face metal music. And I can't say I don't know if it's because of the bands that played previously, but it was because of that, I think. We had Svetkand playing a very, very intricate metal. We had Gravity Well playing, as much as I loved it, it's I would consider Doom to have a mellowness to it.
Yeah.
Drumhound done that thing they done. And then 12 Gauge Outrage just came out and played. To me, they're thrashy. I was talking to someone else and they thought they weren't thrash. I think they're thrashy. I think they're very thrashy. I think they look thrashy. I think they sound thrashy. And it even occurred to me that we're 4 metal bands deep, and this is the first we've seen any headbanging on stage tonight. And it was, even on the stage.
Oh, on stage, yes.
And it was just like, at the time, it was just so refreshing. It was just like, fuck me, I didn't even realise until this point that I just wanted some fucking honest to God metal tonight, and they delivered it. And as you say, again, it was a set that they just played the set. It actually felt really, really short. It felt like it only played for about...
Did it feel that way mainly because actually, like, we were enjoying it?
They could well be.
Like, I don't want to say like that, but the flow that it had was really good.
The set seemed to fly in, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought they sounded good. I thought they performed well. Great band to shoot as well, especially, I can't remember. It's guy on the far left. I think it's the rhythm guitarist.
Reggie or something like that. I
Is
think
it
it might
Reggie?
be something.
Very, very photogenic. Hard to take a bad photo of him.
He's another smiler as well.
But
There's a lot of them that night,
But there's not much. It was just so straightforward and honest that there's not even much for me to critique, if you know what I mean. It was just, that's fucking good, and that's what I want to hear right now.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it for what it was. Yeah. Agree?
Yeah, because what I was saying there about, sounding like old school thrash or whatever might be kind of diluted. I think part of it is because they weren't doing anything new with it, but at the same time, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because by about the last quarter of the set, I was just loving life and just windmilling away,
And then, so the winners of that night, if memory serves me right, it was 12 Gauge Outrage and Gravity Well, isn't that right?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Quite a resounding win as well, or like quite a good portion from 12 Gauge actually. I think it's something like 37 or 35%.
There was definitely something in the 30s.
Yeah.
The right 2 bands to go through?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I wouldn't have had any other 2 bands go through from those.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Heat 1 to Heat 2 reviewed. Hope I haven't pissed anyone off with their comments so far. I think we're usually fair without being too harsh, except for maybe one band. So we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll come back and we're going to preview Heats 3, 4 and 5 as quickly as we can, because we know people don't like overly long podcasts. Okay, catch you in a minute. Welcome back. Right, time to talk about Heats 3, 4, 5, and we'll do those in the logical order of 3 and then 4 and then 5, because that would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? So Heat 3 is this Friday night, and it's Acid Age, Mortal Backlash, Imperial Demonic, and Insidious Void. So we're going to talk about each of those bands right now. It's all got a bit fucking weird. What am I on about? Fucking 2 beers, and that's me. Acid Age. I don't think there's anyone sitting in this room that doesn't, at the very least, have an appreciation for Acid Age. Mark, fan?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
I know you are.
Definitely.
Looking forward to seeing them. We talked before about their album launch. Banger of a show. Definitely got a good chance going through this heat, I would reckon.
Yeah, I think that album launch last year might have been gig of the year for me. Just thinking back, like it was just perfect. Yeah, in terms of components, like Jude, I'd say has like the right hand of Hetfield, the left hand of Mustaine, with a bit of, you know, like virtuosity kind of thrown in, all the while doing those vocals. Jake, I've said it before, but I think he's the best bass player on this island.
100% with you.
And Aaron's a pretty funny guy, you know.
Funny.
No, I'm joking. Aaron is a sensational drummer. Like that drum solo he did on the start of the album off,
yeah.
like it, yeah. Like I really like Aaron's drumming, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Cracking band. Mortal Backlash as well on that bill. We've talked about those on the podcast as well. Fucking loads. Cracking band, young energy, fucking belter.
Yeah, I mean, I find it really hard not to see them in the final, but then, like, I suppose I'm always fucking wrong, apparently. But you know, I think, you know, this is a band, and if, like you were saying to me, put money on one band that's going to be there, I think it's going to be them. Aggressive, good show, bring a lot of people, bring a lot of fun. Yeah. So, but again, that's the commentator's curse, isn't it? Like, okay, Scottish, fuck that.
Let's hope not. Imperial Demonic are on that night. An unknown to most of us, but they've one song up, I think. Don't they have one song up?
The Bandcamp or something like that.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah, there was one demo up, but it had no vocals on it. That's what it was. Now, I knew at the time, and we've talked about this previously, it's Cameron Ashland Glass. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And he's from Darkest Era, Overoff, and Celticor. But I found out that Andy Heathen, also from Overoff, is in this band. So we've got 2/3 of Overoff.
That changes the game.
I mean,
I think
you've 2 people in this band that have already won the competition. The cynic in you might think if they just rebranded Overoff so that they can enter this again, win Bloodstock, melt the masses and go play Bloodstock again. I'm 90% joking, but you have to wonder. You do have to wonder, don't you? But yeah, I mean, it's another one. It's such an unknown that I think that's the main reason I'm looking forward to it so much. You've talented musicians in there, guys that, you know, have proven themselves before.
Yeah, know what it takes to win, and
yeah,
have been there, done that, and hopefully sold a couple of t-shirts.
Absolutely.
Doing it.
And then the other one on that night is Insidious Void, who I know zip about. Don't know who's in the band, don't know where they're from, haven't heard a single song. I don't think I've even seen a logo for the band. Nothing.
There's a logo on the poster. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah,
That is it.
very mysterious.
You know,
So
we do try and do research in here. We try and maintain some form of professionalism. So we fucking looked. we have looked.
For a band not to have a social media page in this day and age, it's a statement, and it's very unusual. Do you know what I would love? And this is weird, but considering like the mystery around them, I would love if they just didn't show up. Like if it was ready for them to go on and they just didn't show up, and it's like they don't even exist.
I'd be pissed off.
Yeah.
and then went through on the crowd.
Stranger Things.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one again. Imperial Demonic. I mean, you think of the name and you're already expecting there to be corpse paint and tremolo picking and all that, and all the stuff that comes along with that.
Maybe
Lots of
more
flat world.
incense, like Overoff used to do.
Possibly, yeah. So that's Heat 3. I think Heat 3 is going to be a really busy one. In fact, we've seen Heat 1 sell out. I think anyone going to Heat 3 that really wants to go to Heat 3, I would book in advance. You could buy tickets for all. Starting to sound like I fucking work for
A
Genius
promoter
or
or
something,
something.
you know?
Here, I've legit already got my ticket for it.
But you can book tickets in advance, and if you don't want to miss out, it's probably not a bad idea. It does help promoters out and shit like that. So I will be saying that for most shows in the future. Book your tickets in advance. So Heat 4.
Who do you
Sorry,
think's gonna
did I
win
miss
Heat
something?
3?
Who do I think's gonna win Heat 3?
Predictions?
Oh, it's a real fucking tough one.
Exactly.
It's a tough one because of those unknowns. I don't almost feel like I don't want to commit. I don't want to commit because I just imagine me saying this band and that band and people coming up to me and then going, so you don't think we're gonna win?
And people, and then whenever you get it wrong, which I never will,
Yeah.
they'll be like, you know, fuck all.
If you right, I'm really thinking about this, and I'm thinking about the importance of the threes that we've talked about before. Every band, their mates come down and give them the fours, so everyone gets the fours from their mates.
In saying
Then
that,
those people put their next favourite down as the threes, right? And I think based off how good we know some of the bands are and how much experience some of the other musicians have, I would say Acid Age and Imperial Demonic. That would be my guess.
Okay, fair enough. I think possible. I think it could be. I think Backlash. I think I think that Acid Age there, just given that the absolute scenes that unfolded with their album launch there, that these guys have a following. People like them. They've got the support there. I think they as well. Yeah, I don't want to say that and they put on one hell of a show as well. Let's not forget that. So I think that the ferocity of that show is going to help them pick up, the threes that But I think it's Backlash and Acid Age. I think Imperial Demonic, given that we just know so little about them, could maybe struggle. As well as that's a more inaccessible maybe style of music than
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it'll be fucking mental if two previous winners come down and get knocked out.
Do you know what it is? That it just throws so much doubt in the head there, doesn't it? That's why we call this the heat of death. It's literally
and then there's Insidious Void that you can't actually comment on. Could be like this massive dark horse. But no, I'm the same as you. Felt like for me, Acid Age, Backlash, easy. I think.
Don't think easy's maybe right.
Well, yeah, just personal taste, we'll say. But like Mortal, Backlash, I think have the crowd vote in the pocket just based on previous times I've seen them, like whether it was the Metal Masses before COVID or, when they opened for Acid Age at that gig. And what I think is interesting, because they were the perfect band to open that gig, and I really love them. Every time I've seen them, they've just had it, they've just delivered. But what's interesting this time around isn't that they're supporting them and they're, how's it going? They're kind of in competition with them, kind of, so it might be slightly different this time around.
That wee thing about you said, being cool that Mortal Kombat Backlash opened for, anyone. They won't be doing that for long.
Yeah, no, definitely
They just won't. Promoters are going to see the crowds that they're pulling down. They're going to prove themselves, and they will be headlining shows within 12 months. I have no doubt.
Because when they come onto the scene, kind of 2020, wasn't it? The Metal Masses. That's when I first saw them. Anyway, they had it. They were hungry. Then they had to wait 2 years because of COVID, and they're still just as hungry. But I think they've honed themselves, whether it's their sound or their live performances. They've had that time to practice and get it done more.
Moving on, Heat 4. Falling through, Goes Are the Traveller, Coma, and the Skunts. The two bands on there I'd like to initially touch on. Number one, Coma. From what I have seen, they have wiped out all evidence of their existence in the sense that they almost want to start from scratch. This is a new start for Coma. We did we reviewed them on the show a while ago. I thought they were not a good band at all. You can go back and watch the old episodes if you really want to hear more. But to me, because of the approach that they're taking, it's a clean slate. and I will just wait and see what we think of Coma. And then the other band on that bill that jump out to me is the Skunts, because I love the Skunts. I don't listen to a lot of folk punk because it's just a genre that I haven't been exposed to much. But what I've heard, to me, it's party music. Like it's bounce about. It's music you can dance to and throw beers into you. And I just can't wait to see the Skunts. I've seen them once before, loved them, got the album, love it, great. Very different to everything on the bill, and I know that we've maybe thrown a wee bit of shade at bands for being different. I'm going to say these guys might benefit from being different. I think there'll be a real sort of eye-opener for the other people attending that bill. Any of the bands on there that you have listened to or have any thoughts or opinions on?
I listen to a bit of folk punk now and again, like Days and Days and, the classics and that. I haven't had a chance to check out the Skunts live yet, but aren't they the band with the banjo?
They do indeed have a banjo.
I can't fucking wait to see that.
Yeah. There's footage of them. They played their album launch in Voodoo, which I missed. It's on YouTube if you want to look that up and check it out. It's brilliant. Like, I just fucking love it. Just love it. It's good. It's good time music. Phil, anything on there that?
Yeah, I think you've already said about Coma there, and again, it's clean slate, so it's fair game there. You've fallen through there. I think if I'm right in saying, I think it's our guy. I say he's called Michael Thompson, but I might be getting that wrong. Who we've seen in other bands, and then they have recently got a new lead singer as well, who is actually the lead singer of another band that was in the competition before. If you remember, I think it was Saturine you called them.
I know what you're speaking of.
Saturnine.
Saturnine.
Yeah.
So that maybe sounds right. And the one thing that I remember from the lead singer of that band was the bringing a burrito on stage, which I'm fucking for.
See if there's not some savoury snacks eaten on stage during that set. I will be disappointed.
Disappointed.
Kebabs, pizzas, bring it, like.
Bring kebabs, pizzas, hand it out. We don't take bribes, but food's also good.
was there even an explanation for that at the time? Was it like
there was absolutely not?
Just hungry.
I'm on stage, I'm playing a set in a competition.
Yeah, no.
Eating a burrito.
Yeah, that's it.
Brilliant.
And I think then there's Gozer as well, Gozer the Traveller, and like from sort of what I've looked at on social media, it's like these guys are just kind of constantly posting, rehearsing and stuff, and I think there's even that cliched sort of, and again I think they're a band that don't seem to appear to take themselves hugely seriously, but I think that am I right in saying that one of their videos or one of their covers maybe that they done opened, so that garage door,
going out and smoke coming out,
stuff, and I sort of I enjoy that. I mean, I think definitely, as much as we're like, take it seriously, but so you can enjoy yourself
at the same time,
so I think they could be fun.
I think I seen some footage of them online playing in the railway bar in
Cookstown.
Yeah, and came across as me as like sort of bluesy rock music, and while I wouldn't be a massive fan of blues, I am a massive fan of Clutch, and there's no denying that there's a big blues influence in Clutch. So if they were like a bluesy band that really leaned into the hard rock side of things, I think they might grab my attention. But again, another band we don't know all that about, so
I think it's fair to say, like, the majority of, like, given Coma's current situation, like, there's really, you guys are familiar with Skunts, I'm not, but like, there's really a mostly unknown band, which is kind of like, these are where the surprises are, these where the fun starts, I think.
And then the last heat before we move into the semi-finals.
Oh, and there's a fifth band in this one as well.
Right enough, sorry, fifth band. There's a fifth band on Heat 4.
Yeah.
And that is, we mentioned them
Yeah.
earlier, Minor Inconvenience.
Yeah.
Had to drop out of Heat 2 due to their injury, so they're going to be in Heat 4. Minor Inconvenience, I have listened to a lot, and I really like them. I was really looking forward to seeing them in Heat 2. I would call them like a fuzz rock band with Caius Muse crossover
Like
influences
stonery.
sort of thing, and I thoroughly like them. In fact, if we're going to say predictions for Heat 4, straight off the bat, my first one would be Minor Inconvenience. and ooh, I think people. I'm gonna say the Skunts. I'm kind of speaking from my heart rather than my head there, but I'm saying the Skunts. The Skunts and Minor Inconvenience. I think the Skunts might put a smile on people's faces, and they might get the vote for that. You know, so Heat 4. What do you reckon, winners?
Again, I'm not familiar with most of these guys, and I think it's for me, Minor Inconvenience, having being a bit more familiar with them, because look, I listened to them, I thought they were good, I continued to listen. I think they are good as long as they can pull that off live. I don't think they'll have too much of a problem getting through. I think it's all to play for. In the other four, contenders there, it's all to play for. So I think, look, it's absolutely not a sure thing that Minor Inconvenience are going to get through either, but having listened to them, I think that they will. I think it's all to play for, definitely.
Mark?
I'd agree. I can't wait to see the Skunts finally. I'm interested to see what Coma do now that it's almost like, new lineup, like we don't know if it's going to be the same music as it was before, whatever. So it's like interested to see what that's going to turn out like. But other than that, I'm not too familiar with the other bands, so I can't really call it.
Fair dues. And then the last one, Heat 5. That's the last heat before we go into the semi-finals. We are looking at Divides Unfold, Wild Heat, Dynasty, and Nomadus. Two bands on there that have, we talked earlier about how you go to these shows, there's certain bands you go in with low expectations thinking this isn't my thing, I'm probably not going to enjoy that. Divides Unfold and Wild Hate have been two bands where I've had that sort of, fuck, this is actually pretty damn good. Again, both kind of, to me, just like standard, straight up rock bands. There's no bullshit with them. You get what you pay for. But very, very polished. Both of them incredibly polished. Both play well on stage. Good stage presence. But not winners, I think.
I think not of the competition, given what it is and where it's going. But I think Wild Heat, we have seen both the Wild Heat and Divides Unfold, and they've both been good. Divides Unfold, if I remember right, they kind of had this. They did have a metal element to them, and it was kind of like where they were like, do we belong in the metal shows or do we belong in the rock? Much the same way that certainly Foreign Wolf kind of have that thing that's going on. So they kind of struggled with identity really to a degree, but what I do remember specifically out of Divides Unfold is the guy has an absolutely massive voice, like kind of like a Miles Kennedy-esque, like really good vocal, and I think they're they're a good band, man. Again, I think for this competition, this rock thing, we dwell on it so much. It is kind of more rocky than metally, but I'm glad to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mark, anyone there jump out at you? Are you familiar with these bands?
Wild Hate I've seen before. I think they were in the Middle of the Masses before COVID and things, and I didn't know too much about them then. And I remember just the energy of it, and it was very kind of like 80s, Yeah. I remember really enjoying their set back then, so I was glad to see that they're playing, that heat coming up. And I'd seen them at us a couple of times. I really enjoyed their sets. Like I've seen them in the Limelight before. I actually saw them up in Bangor a couple of years ago. I think they were supporting either like Elder Druid or the Crawling or something like that at the Goat's Toe.
Yes.
So I've enjoyed them like anytime I've seen them. So I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Excellent.
The other two I don't think I've seen before. So.
Nomadus are a band. I remember whenever they hit the scene, there was a lot of love for them. A lot of love. I know a couple of guys in the bands and sound guys, but it never clicked with me. It never really quite clicked with me until the more recent songs that they've been putting out. I think they put out a couple of singles, and it was like, there's growth here, there's progress here. They're definitely sounding better. And I think I'm going to take the same approach with those as I am with the likes of Coma, as in like draw in the sand, forget what was saying 2, 3, 4 years ago, and go in fresh and just judge them off the back of that. Because as I say, like everyone I've spoken to has raved about Nomadus. And it just, I don't know why. I just didn't feel it. But maybe we'll see. We'll see how we go in E5.
Yeah, I think you know, Nevada's there certainly, and we do see it with bands occasionally, is that, you know, whenever they first start, you know, getting together as a band and putting out music, they kind of like go and try and play a particular style of music, or taking an influence from a particular place and continue to try and like play to that influence. But whenever they develop a bit more, they play together a bit more, bring new ideas here and there, they start to develop their own sound, and I think that's where the Matas are starting to get to. So, you know, certainly as you say, they have been putting out singles, and I think last year they put out you know, a couple of singles, and like I've been speaking to Freddie, they have a new album in the works there, and you know, they've been for a long time looking for a new member too, so that's like been holding things up too. It's been a long time since we have seen them, Matas, a long time, because they didn't get their chance to play you know, in 2020, and I think, you know, now that they're developing their own sound, and I know they're practicing a lot, you see a lot of the guys from the band at the gigs, you know, so they're hanging out together, they're familiar with each other. Like I am expecting them to be really, really good in there. Definitely, no doubt about it. And I'm expecting a couple of new songs too, to be honest, just to show off, like you know, that songwriting talent, you know, like that's sort of that development of their own sound.
The last band on that Heat, Dynasty, I couldn't find a single thing about Dynasty. I don't know about you guys, no?
No.
Instagram page, and that's about the height of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's so.
It's a very, very generic name. It's not a very Google-friendly name, so...
Because even if you type in like Dynasty band or Dynasty music, you'll get all
there's
the other ones
dozens
in the
of
world.
them. Yeah, so kind of struggled, so can't really comment on Dynasty. If I had to say two bands going through there, I think I would go with, I think the metal crowd that go to these things will help put Nomadis through, and I think the polish and how well they play will put Divides Unfold through. That would be my two predictions for that round.
I think Nomadis comfortably, Divides Unfold as well. I think it'll be a toss-up between them and Wild Heat, but I suppose again it's these unknowns that like kind of really throw the spanners in the works, because they didn't give Blurred Reality a chance, and then they completely made me look like an idiot.
Absolutely.
And I'm kind of glad they made me look like an idiot, because, well, it's true.
So it's all part of the fun, isn't it? It's all part of the crack.
I think as well, like a big factor in terms of the crowd vote at least is the order that you come in at. Because if you're on last, you know, it's easier for you to just let the crowd have a good time, because the alcohol that everyone's already had by that point, you know.
Definitely.
Whereas if you're on first, it's a bit harder. So in that round, I can imagine if the likes of Wild Heat come on last, everyone's already enjoyed the first three bands coming on, and then they just come in with their high energy performance, and everyone just loves it and fires some threes or fours down, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like that. I think that last band has that real good like advantage of potentially making that lasting impression as you go to the vote.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you were good, they go, yeah, but they just played them. They were pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of keeps you down there.
So I think that's something that really helped 12 Gauge at the weekend there. You know, like the crowd, you know, the bands had already played, and then they just came in and just took what was there, and you know.
Yeah, definitely. That's Metal to the Masses. All the heats. We're going to come back on another podcast after Heat 5, and we'll review those three gigs that we've just talked about, and then we'll preview the semi-finals. At that stage, we'll have a sort of an idea of where this competition's going and who our potential winners are, and we'll probably embarrass ourselves by trying to predict who the winner is. There's loads of semi-finalists that we haven't talked about yet. There's Haint, Psychodelinauts, Pure Sonic Outcasts, Senescence, Survivalist, and Victim Royal. So there's loads more bands involved in this competition that we haven't spoke about today. Should be good crack. Before we wrap up, I just want to start talking about the fact that, and I've dropped this news because this wasn't on the agenda, but gigs are being announced, and I don't know about you guys, but for the last 2 years, every time a gig gets announced, there's always that, that's not going to happen.
It's just the fear.
And I personally feel at the point when a gig gets announced now, I don't even have that thought anymore. It's like I do believe that gigs that are getting announced now are going to happen.
Just today we've had 2 Gojira and Wasp. get cancelled or postponed, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes against what I just said, but you're right. It sucks that Gojira show just got pushed back. But there's been a few announcements. Malevolence have announced an Irish tour, and if you've watched this podcast, you already know how I feel about Malevolence.
Yeah.
Suck this cunt into this band as well. Malevolence are doing Limerick.
Siege
Dublin
of
and
Limerick
Belfast.
itself. Oh,
No,
sorry.
they're not
You're
doing
still-
Siege.
No, you're still talking about Malevolence.
Yeah,
Let's talk about
they're
gig
doing
announcements.
Limerick, Dublin, and Belfast. Should be 3 cracking shows. If you can get to any of those, highly recommend it. Sheer Terror have announced a Belfast show as well. That's another New York hardcore band. Apparently, there's another hardcore show close to being announced, but I mean, I know nothing about that. Promise. I'm trying to think. Is there any other shows that have been announced recently? You guys are looking forward to?
Siege was a big one.
Siege,
yeah.
Siege announced their line. I actually wouldn't mind doing a
Separate.
quick sit down and just talk about Siege. I mean, we're all 3 of us are going to Siege of Limerick, yeah.
Yeah.
First time for all of
First
us.
time.
Yeah, so it's the first time for all of us. We're going to Siege. We will definitely be reviewing what we remember of Siege, which will probably be about 3 or 4 bands in total.
It'll be our shortest podcast yet.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to getting down to Siege. My first one, the lineup is fucking insane. Like, I mean, I haven't got the notes of who's on the lineup, but Conjurer, Baylor playing, Survivalist, Lockhorns. Take it from there. Who else do you remember?
Druid are playing out there.
Elder Druid.
and Sahara are playing Strangers with Guns. Reported Earth playing. I'm not entirely sure.
I think that might be it.
Yeah. Like it's an absolutely.
Were Tombs on there?
Tombs,
as well,
Tombs,
yeah.
Tunes
yeah,
on a
that's
band
right.
called The Spirit are headlining on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane lineup, and for €35, that is fucking mental. Like I was the other day just comparing it with a friend to Frost and Fireland Festival, which is 10 bands over 2 days, and that's 90 quid
Yeah.
compared to like Siege for €35. It's just
It's incredible.
And just
amazing.
touching on that, because I don't know if it's announced or not, but did I hear that Midnight are going to be playing Voodoo around the same time?
Well,
Or was that someone
no,
talking shit?
From what I've been told, that is definitely not happening. That is not happening because all the bands playing at Frost and Fireland, if you want to see them,
You have to go
Gotta
there, so
go
it's
to Frost and
exclusive
Fireland.
signing.
they are making it a point of, if you want to see these bands, you got to go there.
Yeah.
Because the guy who runs it was on the Metal Cell podcast, and he talked about that. If you haven't seen that episode,
I'll have to check it out, yeah.
check that out. But yeah, even just getting down to Limerick and seeing the Worn Out lads and the Metal Cell guys, Richie and Danielle and stuff, that'll be a brilliant weekend. If you haven't booked Siege, I mean, I can't say it's a brilliant weekend because I've not been, but I don't know.
You can only
I
guess.
don't know anyone that's been to Siege and went, "Oh, it was all right."
Yeah.
You know, it's meant to just be an absolute a weekend celebration of Irish metal, and I can't fucking wait. In fact, we have almost, Claire and I have dubbed it our honeymoon because we haven't been away since getting married. So, yep.
Come and say hello at least.
That's
as
just
well,
that's
you know,
just
that's it.
that's just an excuse for you have to buy us pints because we're on our honeymoon. You know. Listen, we'll wrap it up there. I think we've covered everything we planned to cover. As I say, we will be back after Heat 5 to talk about Metal to the Masses. Hopefully, gigs will start to kick off more often, and we'll have more to talk about than just Metal to the Masses, because I know a lot of people do feel that it does kind of saturate the scene for a little bit during part of the
Kind
year.
of like first half of the year.
It's a fair comment. We love it. I mean,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be
Yeah.
sitting here talking about it if we didn't. But it's a fair comment to say that it does kind of overwhelm the venues and whatnot. Well, Voodoo anyway. But I fucking digress. Right, we're gonna wrap it up here because we've warbled on for long enough anyway. Just want to thank Mark for coming on for the first time.
Thanks for having me.
Definitely have you back, mate.
Yeah.
It was good crack.
Yeah, it was good.
Phil, I guess. Yeah, thanks for coming on again.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and more importantly, thanks for watching. Usual outbollocks, like and subscribe, and as always, keep listening to the wrong kind of music.